Nani? How can this be? I thought we banished this bike to the Shadow Realm. No matter. This time we'll finish the fight. We've grown as motorcyclists and builders, and our skills have developed beyond your comprehension. A bike lift, a Dremel, and the tool that everyone hates. And this time, there's two dinguses willing to spend way too much time and money on a mid-2000s naked bike. It's back, everybody!
Wait, hold up. Little bit of, it needs some work.
Okay, is that on? Okay, that's
you're good to go.
Okay, cool. It's back, everybody! The Hentai Hornet, the bike that started it all, the bike so nice that I bought it twice. Yes, I bought this bike back. It's ours again here at Yami Noob HQ. This is a legendary motorcycle in the Yami Noob multiverse. You guys already know the deal with this thing if you're an old head around here on Yami Noob. But today we're gonna cover the history of this bike and where we're gonna be going with it in the future, because this is now an official Yami Noob shop machine. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's do a recap on this motorcycle. You have some storied history with it. I have some storied history with it. This was the very first beginner bike giveaway that I ever did back in 2018. In like October of 2018, I launched this kind of experimental idea where I was like, hey, I'm gonna get a bunch of weirdos on Discord and see what we can cobble together in terms of a giveaway motorcycle. You were one of those people on Discord.
I was one of those people, one of the OG Discord boys. Yeah. And I'm probably one of the reasons why we ended up voting on this one instead of the little Honda 300.
Yeah, which would have been a lot easier, but not nearly as legendary, because you used to own a 919, right?
I did, yes. So I had a 2007. It was red and a lot nicer shape than
way cleaner.
Way cleaner than this is. But this is a platform I am super familiar with. Put down a lot of miles in the saddle on mine. Unfortunately, ended up selling it because it had a throttle position sensor problem and broken wires and stuff because it was old.
Yeah.
And then I got my Interceptor, which was a sad year.
Yeah. It's sad. But now you're back seeing the light on your Supermoto, doing good for yourself.
Yep.
But this motorcycle, I bought it for $1,500 off of Craigslist because I was big into the It Came From Craigslist series at the time, and it was a total nugget. If you think it's a nugget now, it was even worse back then. And then I began the process of trying to fix it and change it and do stuff. This classic gas tank here was actually a Discord boy's idea to wrap it in hentai. And I put it to a vote because back then things were really wild and crazy in the Discord. I said, screw it, we'll vote on if we want to do hentai on the bike or not. And the hentai boys won, which was crazy. And I said, hey, as a, kind of a, an olive branch to the Discord boys, I said, I'll do tasteful ahegao instead of tentacle crazy hentai stuff. So that's why the gas tank looks this way.
I mean, you gave it to the internet. Of course they were going to say wrap it in hentai.
Yeah. So what ended up happening with this bike is I tried to fix some of the problems because it actually was knocking, and we thought it was the cam positions, the cam chain tensioner on this bike, which is actually right there. I tried to fix it, didn't fix it correctly, probably made it worse. We had to swap in a new engine in it, which you actually bought the bike down here in Austin. I paid you for the bike. You brought the bike up to Dallas. We swapped the motor, put the new engine in it, and then we selected a winner, and it lived a good, 20,000 miles with him, right, for the last...
Even more, man.
Maybe
this thing's
more.
Got 60,000 miles on the odometer.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
And then one day, Eric was on Discord, and he pinged us on a DM, and he said, I am actually thinking of getting rid of the Hornet, which, you don't have to keep the giveaway bikes for forever, especially one like this. And out of courtesy, he said, do you guys want to buy it? And I was like, man, I think it would be kind of fun to buy back the Hornet. Why not? So I bought this bike again after giving it away, and he had it for 3 years. And it's probably going to be the only giveaway bike that ever comes back into the shop. I imagine the other ones, since they're actually worth something, if someone wants to sell it and make money on it, they'll sell it and make money instead of selling it back to me. But this bike it's really special. It's the very first bike I ever bought as a giveaway bike. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to you as a former 919 owner. And we're going to restore it back to its former glory. That's kind of the plan with it, right?
Yeah, so I actually have about $2,700 worth of parts already mapped out for this, from a 900 RR exhaust, because that's a super common mod with this platform, taking the CBR 900 RR, because that's basically all this is. You can just run the same exhaust, you just get a mount for down here, good to go. It actually helps alleviate some of the stink, because these motorcycles are famously stinky.
Yeah.
They just run so rich at idle. And even though we have a power commander in here, it still runs a little bit rich. We'll get that on there. We're going to put a new tank on, new rear cowl, new headlight. But the first thing that needs to happen is we got to take a lot of stuff off and polish and clean and clean and polish.
And refresh and new fluids and get the suspension sorted out again. Because, yeah, 60,000 miles on the shock and forks.
Speaking of 60,000 miles, it might be time for a valve check.
No, I think we'll leave that to the professionals. Yeah, I think we'll take it to a shop. I'm just sorry, I went to somewhere there, a little bit of a flashback when I did the valves on this bike the first time. I think I'm okay. Yeah, I think I'm okay.
You sure you don't want to dive back into? I mean, this is basically a brand new engine, right? You messed up the first one. You got to have learned something.
No. If the Gixxer 250 is any indication, my powers have not grown in the 3 years. Yeah, so this bike is going to be a ton of fun. We're going to do a whole restoration process on it, but some people at home might not even know the specs on this thing. What kind of power, what is it?
So this motorcycle is back when they were making leader bike and naked bike on the same platform, right? So this is literally just the 900 RR engine with a slightly detuned engine to make more torque. And it's putting down 108, they claim, and 67 foot-pounds of torque, which no way in hell it's making that. Those are some Disneyland numbers right there.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably about 94 horsepower and maybe 55 to 60 foot-pounds of torque. That's still a lot for what this is, and it's got such a cool sound.
Yeah.
It's also a bit heavy for what it is, 460 pounds, but it's a big, beefy steel frame. I mean, you could drop this thing out of an airplane and it'd be fine. Fully adjustable suspension, again, from the 900 RR, so we're talking 90-0 suspension on here. But, you know, it still runs, it still rides, still goes, it still stops, so.
Well, why don't we make sure it actually does all those things? Let's get it out on the road. All right, taking off with the Hornet here, we've already done a few modifications to it at the shop. Boy, that front end feel is just a bit strange on this thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not quite right. I checked the tire pressure. I checked some of the other stuff that you normally look at. I think it's got a wobble at about 35 miles an hour, 30 to 45 miles an hour, which leads me to believe there's an imbalance in the front rim, but I'm also thinking that probably the suspension isn't set quite right. It feels a little bit more raked out than it needs to be, so I think we just need to get a suspension guy to look at it, and I've already got a guy in mind. Old bikes like this, you got to look at them top to bottom and holistically. You can't just assume one little thing is wrong with them, because it might be a litany of things causing the issue. But look at this. I mean, it just goes down the road. It's an unkillable Honda inline 4. Still pulls as hard as the day it was on the showroom floor. Well, maybe not, but close enough. Some of those horses have turned to glue over the years, that's for sure. Definitely. It's got that classic look about it when it's rolling down the road. It looks so cool. Yeah, it's definitely a spongy ride, though, I will say. It's not very confidence-inspiring. Especially since you rode the 1098 in, I mean... Yeah. This is definitely an old school, old, lazy bike for sure. I mean, it was designed to be your everyday motorcycle. That was like what the, Z900 is nowadays, or the Z900 RS, I suppose. Yeah, that would make a great comparison if we grab ourselves the Z900 versus this old CB900F, huh? Because now that I've paid good money for this bike, I gotta milk it for all it's worth again. You gotta give me an ROI, Hornet. You gotta give me an ROI. I can't wait till we start ripping into that thing and just seeing what 60,000 miles has done to a motorcycle. Oh, God. I mean, if the pivot points at the levers are any indication, we're gonna find a lot of smudge and grease and gunk everywhere. Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that bike could benefit from right now is just a nice, thorough cleaning. Just to see what lies beneath, Funny bit of feedback for the Hornet here, and in a way that many people wouldn't think that it's similar to a Panigale.
But one way that a Hornet is similar to a Panigale is when you're mid-corner and you let off the gas, the whole chassis just shakes and gets unsettled.
I have a feeling that with the Hornet, that's down to, you know, a cast iron frame.
I got a skillet just like that at home.
I mean, that frame member, it's not like a normal frame where you have like frame, subframe that you can unbolt. It's just one big welded chunk of steel.
Yeah. Now, it's not a cradle frame, though, from what I saw. It's a stressed member up at the top, so it's you know, we're going to give the Hornet a little bit of credit here. It's a teensy bit sophisticated, but not by much.
Yeah, it was one of your, you know, first stress member frames back in the day when they were really starting to figure it out, and Honda didn't want to make an entire subframe for it, so they were just like, screw it, we got this tube steel, let's just bend it and put it in place.
Yeah, I think getting the suspension sorted and looked at, maybe even a new rear shock if it needs it, or if it just needs a nice revalving or new fluids in the front, and then the new tires ought to make this thing right as rain. And then, as we said earlier, maybe that front wheel does have a bend or something in it, because I do remember that. For some reason, that seems familiar to me from when I used to have this bike.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Everything can happen to a motorcycle over the course of its lifetime. But I feel like if there was a bend, we'd see something a little bit more. So I think we just start, you know, you start working from the top and see where it ends up.
Yeah, one thing that's great about this Hornet is the character of the engine is just wonderful. It's very torque rich, makes a great sound. You can definitely tell how Honda does the same thing on their new CBR 650Rs and that 650 platform. This is just the granddaddy version of those bikes, which is really cool.
Yeah, the DNA of that motorcycle, you can really feel it in all of Honda's motorcycles, which I suppose you can say that DNA is really the 900 RR, that was the thing that started it all for Honda.
Because this naked bike was kind of a trickle down from that 900 RR, and all that technology and advancements eventually made their way into this thing. But, you know, it's crazy. We were talking about it on the way up here, that the Panigale, or not the Panigale, the Ducati 1098 you're on and this motorcycle would have been on dealership floors at the same time, which really goes to show you what kind of a wild time the mid to late 2000s was for motorcycling.
Yeah, I mean, you could get these, you know, absolutely wild sport bikes, or, you know, just sort of old school classics.
You know, one of the funniest things about this is actually the most I've ever ridden this bike, because back when I owned it, it lived in my garage for like 4 months. I didn't really ride it. I rode it home, and it sat at my garage, and then I gave it away. That was pretty much the whole story with it.
Yeah, so I guess that means that I have more seat time on a Hornet than you do.
Oh, totally. Man, something feels weird at this bike at a certain speed. That is not normal.
Yeah, no, it's got some issues with its issues, but I mean, we're gonna figure them out slowly but surely.
That's the whole point of this project, just figure it out. Bring this little sucker back to life. Man, I am taking it so ginger with the Hornet because it's on these old ass tires and it's so old.
I can really tell how you're just moseying through.
Yeah, I am Miss Daisy over here.
But the fun thing about that is, you know, you can really look down and see those two needles working when you get on the power.
Yeah, it's really great.
It really does. From the back, it looks like a super aggressive, like, Street Fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got this cool LED integrated turn indicator thing on it, which is pretty sweet. But one thing I wanted to do right now is actually I wanted to swap bikes, have you jump on the Hornet, because you were telling me, and I already know this fact, but you were telling me that back in the day when you bought this bike, not this one, but a 919, it was the fastest bike that you'd ever ridden.
Yep.
So now, I'd love for you to do a little poll on it, and you tell me if it still stacks up, you still think it's pretty quick.
I have some theories that it might not hold up, but... All right. Oh man, that sound is just so classic though, damn. All right, here we go. mean, it's no slouch. It's really not. It's a rapid little bike, but fastest thing in the world for me anymore? Nah. I've ridden a lot faster, but I really do think this is kind of money for just total basic street riding. It's such a good usable inline four.
Yeah, it makes torque down low because it's a bigger inline four. It's got a great top end punch. It's definitely what a street rider would be looking for. But yeah, imagine if back in the day, before you rode the 919 that you thought was the fastest thing in the world, someone gave you the keys to a ZH2 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember when I got on the R1 for the first time, which was my first properly fast motorcycle. And man alive, that one made me feel things.
Mostly it made you jump back on your VFR and you're like, what's the point?
Yeah, I was like, because I had, you know, cool flashy red sport bike. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. But man, getting back on this thing after having 2 years off from my 919, it brings back so many memories.
Yeah, because you rode that 919 a whole bunch.
Yeah, I put down almost 10,000 miles on that bike in the year that I had it. Yeah. It was a big change for me in motorcycling. I realized that, you know, there was more than the Harleys out there. It brings back some just lovely memberberry soup for me. And I cannot wait till we get this thing restored, because looking down, it's a little bit rough in some areas.
That's putting it mildly. Yeah, and it's a bike that I think it deserves it, you know? Like, it's this legendary Yami Noob motorcycle. Why not give it the full restoration treatment, you know?
Man, I love the way this engine just sounds. It has this whistle on the intake, and an idle, it does this low lub. And the power commander that's in here seems like it's doing a good job. I'm not feeling any flat spots. I'm not feeling any dead spots. It's not lurchy.
Yeah, no, it pulls really nicely through the entire rev range, honestly.
And chiefly, anybody out there who has owned a 919 knows that one of the failure points on this bike is the throttle position sensor. And I get to neutral throttle at 4,000 RPM here perfectly smooth. So the throttle position sensor is good to go, which is a big job on this bike. Replacing the throttle position sensor is no fun. And that's actually what took my bike down, was the throttle position sensor circuit. So
do you think if you had it nowadays and you had to fix it, would you keep it or would you sell it?
I'd keep it, for sure. I know way more now than I did back then. I could fix it for sure.
Yeah.
I wake up every day and I think back to that 919 and I'm like, it's the one that got away, man.
Yep.
It's the one that got away.
I feel that. I just cannot believe that this freaking hentai Hornet is here riding with us, and it's now fully back in the shop.
Like, it's not going home, it is home.
Some would even say I bought the 919 back to put a smile on your face, Spite, for a good year of work done, you know?
Well, if that's the case, I sincerely appreciate it, because this thing, it's so good.
Yeah, it's going to make for some great videos. I'm excited to ride and enjoy that thing.
I love it. I freaking love it, man.
It's so funny trying to explain to non-motorcyclists why we love certain bikes. Like, they'd look at that, they'd be like, really? You love that thing? Seriously? You're like, you don't get it. As I sit here searching for neutral. Oh, did I find it? Oh. Yeah.
One thing you guys aren't experiencing if you're out in video land is the smell.
Oh, it stinks. Yeah.
919s reek. They smell so bad of exhaust because they run so rich. But
I can imagine a younger Spite going and buying a 919 and getting to hear that sound, and you're like, oh,
yeah, it's like, it's real bike time, baby.
this is a real boy bike. Yeah. If you guys have any suggestions of what you want us to do to the Hornet, truthfully, we will not listen to them, because this was a community-powered bike in the past, and I tell you what, it's not one now. So keep them to yourself. Just kidding. If you guys have any fun thoughts or comments, please leave them down in the comments section below. And yeah, get ready to see some more Hornet content. This thing's going to be brought back to life eventually. and we'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Come on, go faster, come on.
Going as fast as I can.
Come on, get me down, come on.